So big news from the US. The US House of Representatives has passed a bill that could potentially lead to the banning of TikTok in the US. US is a huge market for TikTok, especially after it was banned in India. And there is bipartisan support across Democrats and Republicans for what is seen as a perception of a growing influence of China over America's digital spaces, especially because of the popularity of TikTok. So TikTok is owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, and it's found itself now in the center of a geopolitical storm. So the legislators are arguing that ByteDance could be compelled to share information with the Chinese government, and that could pose a risk to American users. So this bill basically gives ByteDance a 6-month ultimatum that they need to either sell their controlling stake in TikTok or face a ban in the US. So this journey is far from over. Now the bill heads to the Senate, and if it is passed, it will need the signature of President Joe Biden, who has already signaled his intention to sign the bill. In fact, the funny story is that Donald Trump had once issued an executive order banning TikTok, and now he has come out in support of TikTok, trying to basically get younger voters. Now, TikTok users are obviously worried. They're worried that the loss of the platform that's become a part of their daily lives and livelihoods, will get banned. But remember, something like this happened in India too, where TikTok was banned. So why is TikTok basically being banned? In countries across the world, there are governments that have said that government employees aren't allowed to use TikTok. Basically, ByteDance, which is TikTok's parent company, is not just under scrutiny for its ties to the Chinese government, but also because of data privacy concerns that has overshadowed its operations, where data is being sent to China. In this digital data, personal information is very critical, because you can basically use that for the algorithm to prioritize, let's say, certain kind of content that might pose a China point of view in personalized feeds, or it could be used to target people in a particular manner. And there have been instances of, let's say, Chinese employees accessing data. So there is bipartisan control, and both sides of the Democrats and the Republicans have cited national security as a decisive sort of issue looking at this. Finding a suitor for TikTok is going to be tricky. It has to be someone who can navigate the geopolitical and financial complexities. These companies are structured in a strange manner as well, and they have different companies at times in different countries. So ByteDance, however, will be valued at billions, and the stakes are high for everyone involved. Microsoft had been in the fray in 2020 in August, when Trump was issuing that executive order, and there had been negotiations, and Microsoft was looking at buying TikTok's operations in the US, in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. In all of these nitty-gritties, I think it's also important to have a conversation about technology and the global internet and the struggle between countries for digital supremacy. The issue about banning TikTok isn't just a ban about an app ban, which is about sovereignty and security, but it's also about the nature of the internet as we know it, and as someone who believes in the power of the internet to connect, inform, and empower and bring people together, I actually find myself wrestling with the implications of such a ban. Firstly, for example, the matter of sovereignty and security cannot be overstated. When India had banned TikTok, the US had praised it, saying that it emphasizes India's push for sovereignty. And India had banned 58 other apps at that point in time. And the same issues, the same concerns that we had raised here, and ours was also primarily an outcome of a line of control, actual control skirmish between Indian and Chinese forces. It was more of a reaction to that, but we'd also cited personal information being shared with China and the risk to national security at that point in time. Privacy was a major concern shared by India. So it's not just about those things, right? Let's not forget that under the Chinese intelligence law, companies can be forced to act in the interest of the Chinese government. And this does apply to ByteDance, which owns TikTok. So, for example, if there had to be a DDoS attack on India, or if they wanted information on a particular TikTok user, they can map what they're accessing. There's thousands of data points that are being collected for each user. From an opportunity perspective, the ban on TikTok in India created like a multi-billion-dollar vacuum. There's funding available for new short video apps like Chingari, Roposo, Moj, Josh, MS Takatak, Mitro, Punch. Of course, all of them have struggled for revenues and growing users. And in India, who's won? YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, right? So technology basically abhors a vacuum, and entrepreneurs will be opportunistic. The other thing to consider is that the legal basis for the ban in India was kind of on shaky ground because of challenges, for freedom of expression and disproportionate action. Like banning an entire platform can seem like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut, right? So, because it doesn't just stifle existing legitimate speech, you don't just ban speech, illegal speech, but you also ban legal speech that exists on the same account or the same app. But more importantly, you ban future free speech. How do you know something is going to be illegal? So for a liberal like me who believes in the internet as an enabler that brings the world together and as a global marketplace for both speech and commerce and ideas, right? The idea of banning apps from a particular company, it seems abhorrent. A ban on Chinese apps at the same time seems like the right thing to do because, in a democracy, a company could have challenged that Chinese intelligence law that forces them to become instruments of the state. If something like this happens in India, you could do that. Something like this happens in the US, the companies can also do that. I think we need to have different rules for democracy. And I think for Chinese companies, there needs to be a different set of rules. Like in India, what the Indian government seems to be executing is a more calibrated plan, in the sense, apart from banning around 509 Chinese apps so far, it has also regulated Chinese investments in Indian businesses. It's regulated deployment of telecommunications equipment by operators, and both of these have been done by instituting separate government processes. They have to seek approvals before launching, right? India has also pushed for handset manufacturing to be shifted to the country. They've rolled out the red carpet for many handset manufacturers. It's imposed restrictions on direct e-commerce imports to address like purchases from sites like AliExpress. So India is constantly trying to reduce its dependence on China because you're empowering an authoritarian regime otherwise. So we have to balance openness with protections and ensure that in defending ourselves, most importantly, we don't lose what makes the internet such a global, powerful tool for good.